Good morning. It's Wednesday, November 1st, 2023. My name is Terry Morgan and we're here to practice. Also here to talk about foundations for practice. And this is more than just the movements that we do and the basis for those movements. It's more about what each of us brings to our practice and what we keep as part of that practice. So, lifetime practice, what do you do? What do you do? When you're younger, you do some things. When you're older, you do different things, right? I'm going to talk about that today. When I first started, that's been a theme for all of these foundations, because that's where I look for what my foundations are. Why am I still here? Why am I still practicing? Been at it for close to 40 years now. Why am I still here? What are you doing? Right? That part of wanting to do some physical activity, wanting something that I can do to keep moving, to literally keep moving, to do something that I enjoy. I played sports when I was a kid. I got older, not so much interested in playing sports. I could, but not really. I wasn't that much interested. It was fine at the time, and then I moved on. I studied dance, and then I got older, and I need to move on and look at something else. I started studying Tai Chi. I looked at it, and then I didn't study it, and then I studied dance, and I went back to Tai Chi, and I kept going. That process, started studying Tai Chi. I wanted to study Tai Chi some more. Got better at it. I started studying with somebody who really knew what they were doing. And I got a lot better at it. And then I went to China. And I got better. And I learned so much from all of the years that I spent traveling between the US and China, all the years that I spent trying to create the Wudang Research Association, translating books, working on my language skills, developing my skills in Bagua and Xingyi and sword and all of the other things that I do. All of that is part of my foundation. I wanted to understand what was in that book. I wanted to understand what was in the book. I have books that I sort of read, but I need to spend a lot more time with, because the Chinese in those books is much more difficult for me than Professor Liu's books, because I studied with him. I learned from him. I began to develop an understanding of his choice of words, the way that he used his language, and how that could be translated into English, and how I was able to understand what I should be doing. Part of that was explanation, and part of it was example. So I could have all of the explanation, I could have read dozens of books over here with lots and lots and lots of explanations for how to do this and how to do that and what this is for and what we're doing here. And I could be able to repeat all of those nicely worded explanations over, nice explanations over here. I could do that. I could learn how to do that. I know many people who have done that. I've met other people. I know people who have done that, and I've met many other people who have done that. And we go over here. Show me what that looks like. You explained it extremely well. Show me. Not all of the people who can give those explanations can actually do anything at all. Many of them can do something. They've learned something, and there is great value in what they've learned. It may or may not be as complete as they would like to think it is, but they've learned something and it has value. And there are other people, fewer, who've learned something to a depth that is more than what appears on the surface. That depth shows in the movement. It shows in the quality of the movement, not the physical attributes so much as the way in which the movement is done. Talked about this a lot yesterday with the stepping method from Yang style Tai Chi, the sink, move forward. That smooth, slow step gives us balance, placement, control of the body that we would not have if we were not moving slowly. It's adagio in dance. There are slow, controlled movements that we should practice and cultivate. There are faster movements that are more about reaction and response than something forced. So my left hand just went up as if there was a fly in the room, and I'm swatting the fly. Reaction. I didn't think about, oh, I'm going to take my left hand, I'm going to do this. I decided that's what I was going to do, and I did it. That connection, the thought with the movement, is absolutely something that we want to cultivate. Being able to do that, being able to connect fully the movement, the dynamic, with the thought. So I think about it, I do it. Right hand. Thought about it, did it. It's not forced, it's not, okay, now I'm going to move my right hand, I'm going to take my right hand away from this hand, I'm going to move it out and move it closer here, and I'm going to raise my elbow, and I'm going to go back to here, and then I'm going to bring it back down, and no. It's fluid, it's easy, it appears effortless. It should. That quality of movement, that effortlessness within the effort, either way you want to take it, the outward appearance is effortless despite whatever effort may be made inwardly. And the goal, that's not necessarily what we got today. The goal is that the movement should be effortless, complete, full, open, strong, flexible, and outwardly the appearance is effortless. Keep that idea in mind. Feet about shoulder width apart. We need the basic stretch. Raise the heel on both legs, just bend the knee a little bit. I'll talk about this in after a minute. Alright, and heels down. Pull up through the back. Hand circle to the front. And back around to both sides. Up along center line. Breathe in. Breathe out. As you reach out over the legs, relax, bend the knees. And again. Smile. And one more time. Fingertips reach up. Elbows drop down. Wrists. Hands return to your sides. Alright, I'm going to turn sideways here. This little stretch. Put your hands on your hips. Don't move your hips. The hands on the hips, right? Don't move your hips. Your hips don't go up and down. Raise your heel. Don't think about pushing your knee forward. Allow your knee to move. Think about raising the heel. Push it down. The other foot. Raise the heel. Push it down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That raising and lowering without moving the hip stretches the back of the leg and warms up the hip. It does. It just, you should feel it right here. Every time you bring the knee out, every time you raise the heel, the knee comes out, this bone right here in the back of the hip turns. Put it down, and again, just a little bit. That's what we want. Just that little bit. Alright. Foundations for Tai Chi, Xingyi, Bagua, Qigong, Sword, Liuhe, Bafa, Yang style Tai Chi, different than Wudang style Tai Chi, different than what Liuhe Bafa, different than all sorts of elements that are, it's a little bit different. What's the same in all of them? You, the person who's practicing, how we approach that practice is the foundation. So I approach my practice with curiosity. I'm going to learn something. Whatever I do, I'm going to learn something. It just comes with. Understanding that took me a while. I wanted to get it right. Let me work on this. I'm gonna. That's it. Bagua. Yeah. Okay. I want to work on this. I got to get it right. I got to get this turn. All right. It's iffy. Sort of. I'm going to work on it a little bit more this morning, right? We're going to work on that. What do I need in order to do that term? And stepping. I'm going to walk the circle. What do I need to be able to do to keep walking this circle? Not fall into the center, right? And maintain, excuse me, maintain an even step along with an even pace. Because the changes that we use in Bagua happen all together at the same time. As we're walking the circle, we're trying to develop an even, consistent step. Walk the circle. How many steps around the circle? 8 or 12. How big is the circle? Well, it's about, what is it, this much, right? I can see it in my head. I don't know the measurement. I think it's 2 meters. Yeah, so it's about half. It's about 3 foot. So 8 foot, except that I see things in feet and inches, and the diagram is not in feet and inches. It's the one that I got from Professor Liu is in meters. Okay, so I'm going for maybe 8 meters ish, something like that, which would be, could be 6. No, 2. No more than 2 meters a yard, so no more than 2. All right, that dimension, and think about this for a second. As I'm looking at remembering, I have a picture in my mind of the Bagua drawing that Professor Liu did in the basement of the townhouse that I was renting back in the 90s when he was visiting. So we were teaching, and I was having trouble with the pattern. He was teaching the pattern. What better way to do it than draw a picture on the floor? So we did. Actually, he did. And measured everything out, and I used that for several years until I moved, and I don't have it anymore except in my head. As I look at my floor here, I see that picture in my head. I visualize that image. So I know where all of the positions in the Bagua are. This is my starting position, chin, heaven. This is number 1. This is ending position, kun, earth, okay? And each of the points that I'm going to use, 1, 2, right? Each point that I'm going to use on the circle has a number and a palm change associated with it. As I remember that, I remember the times that I practiced. I remember the time that I was learning. I remember the parking lot at Shiling's house in Zhengzhou. I was staying with her and her family and practicing in a parking lot, round and round the circle, as I was very first learning Bagua. So I go to the park in the morning, come back, get breakfast, go outside and practice. That experience, I could see the circle in the dirt too, so there was that. That experience gave me another level of foundation for my practice that I would not have otherwise. Wouldn't be here. That experience, along with, I'm going to say, that experience, along with my sustained practice, what I have today. I could have a sustained practice and not be very good. I could. I practice and I practice, but what I'm practicing is incomplete. Well, how do you know? How do you know what this is complete, this is not, what do I do with this, how do I get, right? How do you find that out? Part of it is through your own practice. It's not somebody out there telling you. It's through your own practice and listening to what your body is telling you, listening to what your thoughts are telling you. What am I thinking about today? Well, today, for me, right? For me, I'm thinking about 2 times in my life. I just talked about them. One, I was in China, staying at my friend's house in Zhengzhou. And another time, we're going to go to just many times, back and forth over the years. Another time, we're going to go to visit Wudang. And I actually wore this shirt on that trip. Something from the past, something that I did, wasn't necessarily that I intended to do it, but I thought about it over here and, oh, you know, I did that, right? Let me say that another way. As we accumulate the experiences that we have, as we build our skills and our practice on those experiences, we can look back and see how they influenced us. We can't always see that in the present, and we can't always predict whatever we're doing in the present is going to do for the future. So when I was getting ready to go to Wudang back in the mid-90s, wanted to go. I know it's going to be a trip, but let's go. And thinking about what I hope to have, what I hope to accomplish, a big part of that did not happen. What I hoped was didn't happen. What I wanted didn't really happen. What happened was what happened. And that's what I have now, is what happened then. I can't go back and change it, right? It's what happened. That experience gave me something that I would not have had otherwise. I didn't realize it at the time. It wasn't until quite a few years later that I looked back and began to understand what I gained from that experience. It did take me a few years to look back. Now, today, I'm looking back again. I'm talking about foundations. Where does all of this practice, where does the practice come from? Why do I want to do this? What am I doing? What is going to engage me? What's going to keep my interest for however long I'm going to practice? What is that? Well, for me, one of the things was I want to go to, we're learning Wudang Tai Chi, I'm learning this Wudang stuff, I want to go to this Wudang place, right? I mean, Everybody wants to go to, you're learning Shaolin martial arts, you want to go to visit the Shaolin temple, right? You're learning Chen style Tai Chi, you want to go visit Chenjiagua, the birthplace of Chen style, right? There were all, at that time, this was the late 80s, early 90s, at that time, everybody wanted to go to the home place of whatever the art was. You're studying Japanese swordsmanship, then you want to go to Japan, right? All of that was part of what inspired me to go to China in the first place. I wanted to learn. Tai Chi teachers over in China. I don't know where I'm going to find one, but I'm going to go and I'm going to look and maybe, we'll see what happens. And I did, and I met Professor Liu and I studied with him for close to 30 years, and here I am now. That experience, that young fate, what happened, informs everything I do. If I had different experience, it wouldn't be the same, right? That's the point. We take our own experience and we blend it with what we're learning. We blend it with what we have learned. And that's what we get to take away today. 3 weeks from now, tomorrow, 3 years from now, right? I may be looking back at this particular class and going, yeah, but you left out this and you didn't talk about that, and what about this other thing over here? And, oh, well, that's a different class then, isn't it? All right, for foundation work, one of the key elements is what we do with centering. In Bagua, do a little movement here. Alright, Bagua, stand straight, feet together, palms closed. Bagua Jiang, palm, right? Pull up through the crown of the head, the body stays straight. Pull in and up through the center. Pull in and up into the waist. We need to have a lot of flexibility through the waist. So ribs, hips, that space between the ribs and the hips, the waist, that needs to be open and supple. The mid-back, not the lower spine, not the tailbone, mid-back. So if you take your hands, open up the fingers, and then put your hands together along your spine, your elbows right about here, that's the area that I'm talking about. That needs to be open and nicely held, not too tight, not too loose, so that as we're turning, you keep good control of that part of the body. Gently and slowly, not too slow, just nice and easy. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in again, and breathe out. One more time, this time as you breathe out, sink onto the right, open the left. Open the hands and turn. And turn back around to the center. Step, slide step. Inside foot straight, outside foot hooks. Step, close, in, up, out, and close. And come back to center. We're going to do that again. That centering, the basic stepping method, and that opening turn along with this turn, foundations for Bagua. In Tai Chi, and we're not going to do this today. This is cloud hands. Two versions of cloud hands. Okay, so one version is this, another version is this. First one is Wudang style, the second one is Yan style. Xing Yi, Pi Chuan. I can do this moving, I can do it standing, it doesn't matter. That foundation, that's foundation for Xing Yi. Anything that we do in any of those arts, those basic movements are given in these sets. Qigong. Foundation. Sword extends all of these. So Tai Chi sword, Bagua has sword, Xing Yi has sword. Sword is an extension of that foundation. Any of the arts that we're practicing depend on how we move in addition to what we're doing, right? So, Bagua, right? Open the waist, ribs have to pull up, the hips have to pull in, the waist pulls in, so that as we're turning, everything remains in good alignment. So the shoulders stay over the hips. You're not leaning this way, right? Shoulders, we're turning the waist. So this turn, not this turn, right? As we shift here, change the weight to come around. If your weight is not well placed and centered now, when you step, this line, go this way, might go this way, might go this way. It won't be straight. And as you come around, you wobble, right? You don't want to wobble. So, set the foot, sink, turn, set. Right here, set. Now come around. That placement, the understanding of how to do the movement. Set the foot in place, keep the straight line, pull up through the ribs, pull in through the waist, keep the hips straight, keep the shoulders over the hips, keep the arms in good control. How to do the movement? All of that comes into play in just this one simple step. Pull up through the crown of the head, right? Sink on to the right, turn the left, ready, and step. That opportunity, knowing where to put your weight, knowing when to put your weight there, knowing how to transfer the weight through the movement so that the movement is smooth and complete. That foundation carries through everything else that we do in Bagua. Same with the stepping method. If I'm off, leaning, going this way, going that way. As I go around, I'm going to fall into the circle. It's gravity. It's going to happen. How do I deal with that? Part of it is through keeping my body straight and well aligned through the center, so that my feet are working under me. And as I turn, the outside foot, whichever foot is outside foot hooks, the inside foot is straight. So the inside foot slides out straight, the outside foot hooks, hook to the inside. Right? I could hook it to the outside and then I'd be going a different direction, right? If I go this way, I'm going to be going a different direction. That little bit of a hook is what makes the circle happen. Keeping the inside foot straight keeps you centered and gives momentum and strength to the movement that you're doing. That forward motion, it's not coming from this foot, it's coming from the back foot. It's coming from the one that goes straight. So that push to move forward, I just walk straight, push, push from here. That forward motion and carrying my body forward gives me the momentum that I want to be able to use in Bagua. I don't necessarily want that same type of momentum in my Tai Chi form. And not so much in Xingyi either. It belongs in Bagua, I want to use it in Bagua. Tai Chi fast form, yeah, I'm going to use it. Xingyi, if I'm working applications, yeah, oh yeah. That combination, again, what am I doing? How am I doing it? Which art does it belong to? What am I paying attention to for this particular art? We're talking about Bagua this morning, as well as foundations generally. Whatever I have for whichever art I'm practicing is my foundation for whatever other art I'm going to practice. I started little kid, ballet, gymnastics, tumbling, playing out in the yard, climbing trees, doing stuff. My dad took me to the swimming pool, he taught me how to swim real early, played sports, baseball and basketball, so I was running and doing all sorts of physical activities as I was growing up. I've continued those physical activities, but I chose martial arts. I chose dance. As I developed my skills, what did I keep? What foundations do I continue to develop to this day? Tai Chi, Xingyi, Bagua, Qigong, all of the arts that I pursued a study of, I wanted to learn. Think about, it's winding up here in a minute. We're going to do one more round of Bagua. If I think back to the 90s again, I wanted to learn. I knew that there was more than what I was going to be able to understand without changing my perspective, without learning a lot more about things that I had no idea even existed. I knew it was missing. I didn't know what, I didn't know where, I didn't know what to do. I found some of it. I learned a little bit. That process I can look back now and recognize that when I first started, Wudang was really a foreign thing. Not so many people knew anything about it, and I'd never really seen anybody that knew what they were doing. Right? I knew about it, but the people that I had seen didn't seem to kind of... Anyway, Xingyi was kind of the same. I'd seen some of it. I'd met a couple of people, but it was, it wasn't until I had met and started studying with Professor Liu, and he showed me what Bagua should look like. I was like, oh, well, that's different. That's not what just, no, I like that, that's nice. All right, and the same with Xingyi. I was, oh, that's what it's supposed to look like. Oh, wow, this is, that feels good. I want to do that. All right, that Santibo, that's the beginning also for Xingyi. Being able to drop into that posture and have it be correct, that's good, is a skill. It's not because, well, all of a sudden I can do, no. I practiced it for quite some time and developed the ability to decide that's what I was going to do and do it. That connection to what I've chosen to do in this minute. So I have to pay attention to that with my hands too, because I like to talk with my hands. So there's times when I'm actually holding my hands here so that I don't move them. That part of what am I doing, how am I doing it, and what are the foundations for that movement? Where does that come from? Posture, pulling up straight, Qigong practice, the small heavenly circle, straight through the body. Same thing here. We're using that, yeah? All right? As I begin that turn, this twist through the waist, and I'm going that way. I could go this way. Twist through the waist, takes the foot with it. They move independently and together. Same with the hands. And yes, no, it's here, not here. Okay. Sinking through the legs, through the back of the legs, and turning at the same time, skill that we want to work for. And I talked about this real quick, and then we're going to walk the circle. Talked about this a little bit at the beginning of class, what we do when we're younger, what we do when we're older. So when I was younger, I wanted all the physical stuff that I could get. Let me see how much physical effort I can put into this because it's fun and I like it. It's physical effort. Let me see, because it's fun. I like the circles. It was nice to go through some of those turns. That carried through all of my years of practice. Now, today, 30 years later, I'm not as much interested in how fast I can move or how much physical effort I can put into whatever movement I'm doing. I'm way more interested in how little physical effort I can put into it, right? And that is part of what we learn as we're developing the physical practice. Did this yesterday. What is the least amount of effort? This is from ballet, first position. Feet are in first position. Second position, arms. What is the least amount of effort? What is the fewest muscles that I have to use? How lazy can I be and still stand here? What do I have to do? Least amount of effort. What do I have to do? Least amount of effort. The more I can reduce tension, least amount of effort. The more I can pay attention to those muscles that I must use, allow the muscles that I need to use to hold to do that. Allow the muscles that I don't really need to use to relax because I'm going to use them later, right? And how can I engage those body parts that I want to use to do what I want them to do? That's what I want my arms to do as I'm turning. That's it. What do I need to do to make that happen? Drop the shoulders, bend the elbows. Understand where my hands need to go. Drop the shoulders, bend the elbows. That's really all you have to do. I want a little bit more than that. I want that sense that, yes, there's some martial art behind this, that there's some energy behind it. I don't want it to be empty. But that idea of least amount of physical effort gives me the opportunity to open up the breath, the chi, the inner energy, and extend that through the movement. If my movement is stiff and strained, all I've got is the physical movement, whatever physical strength I might have. If my movement and my skill in doing a particular movement is integrated and effortless, sung, in Chinese fasong, it doesn't mean limp. It really does mean that effortlessness that comes with the movement being full, complete, and well connected. I mean, just one more time, slowly. So feet together, pull up through the back, pull up through the crown of the head. Breathe in, breathe out, sink onto the right, turn to the left, turn, come around. Walk circle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Close to the center. Big circle. Don't lean. Step out. And close. Come back to the center. That turn I think about it for a minute, just for a second. Think about, what am I going to do? What does that need to look like? What do I have to do to relax? Where's my center? What turns? What moves? How do I stay in the correct position and begin to use that dynamic? That spin carries a lot of force. How can I use that? What do I do with that? Part of Bagua study. Understanding that it exists. How to work with it. Keeping the body straight, keeping that turn in control. How to develop those skills. Whether or not you want to. That's the key. Is that something that you want to do? Maybe it is. It was for me. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. Right? Maybe it isn't. I've had students say, no, I don't want to learn about Tai Chi I like, but then it's okay. That recognition, I talked about that as part of foundations for everything. Recognizing what you like and what you don't like is part of what gives you the foundation to keep going. If you don't like it, you're not going to do it. If you don't like it, you're not going to do it. It's just not going to happen. You can go to class for 10 years and you can practice a set and you can keep doing it and keep doing it. If you don't like it, once you stop going to that class where you're being told you got to practice it, you're probably not going to do it much anymore. Not going to happen. Why do you like whatever it is you like? I can't answer that for you. I can answer for me, but I can't answer. It's a question you have to ask. Why do I like this? It makes me feel good. It's fun. It's got the dynamic that I really enjoy. It's a challenge. It's got another level that I didn't even know existed. Now I got something else I can go explore. That sense of exploration, let me go find out, that's a big part of my studies and why I continue to practice and teach and study. I'm still finding out. There's more to learn. And I appreciate, I'm stopped for today, I appreciate everybody who is following me. These foundations are so important to long-term practice. It's not, okay, today, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. It's 10 years from now, 20 years from now. I'm probably still going to be doing something. I'm, fingers crossed, I'm still here in 10 years. I'm going to be still doing something in 10 years if I'm still here. That's the point. It's, for me, it's a lifelong practice. And what I've chosen to practice, out of all of the things that I've learned, the things that I keep, the things that I continue to practice, and the things that keep me questioning, oh, I didn't know about that, let me learn. That keep that inquisitiveness and that sense of there's always going to be something more. That's what's kept me interested. I hope that you find whatever that is for you in your foundations, so that as you develop your practice, as you figure out, well, yeah, I like this, I don't like that, I'm going to do this, I'm not going to do that, as you figure that out, as you make those decisions, whether it's conscious or whether it's, you know, you look back 5 years from now and think, well, you know, that's what I've really been practicing. All right, however you come to that understanding will give you insights to everything else you do. Really. That's your foundation. Thank you for being here. I appreciate everybody that has been following me, we're gonna keep going.